Hi, everyone. Welcome to the week. We are now in week 3, and we're going to have an unemployment and inflation data assignment. I'm not going to read the overview to you, but it talks about kind of what we're going to do. And then we're going to download both of these files. One's on unemployment and one's on CPI, which helps us to find the inflation rate. And then we are going to calculate inflation as well as unemployment. So let's start with the inflation one. And I already figured it for you. And so basically what I did is I inserted a column and then I used formulas. Basically, we're finding a percentage change. And so we're going to look at our current year and then, or current month, I'm sorry. And then we're going to take our current month, subtract the previous month, and then divide it by the previous month, and then put it in a percentage, because it'll come out as a decimal if we don't multiply it by 100. And so that's what the formula will be. And so what I'm actually showing you is the inflation rate that we're going to note between January and February. However, I put it up on this January line. You could alternatively put it down here on February. It is really up to you. And then I just copied and pasted the formula down. Here is a great graphic that shows the formula as well for when you're calculating it. And so now once you're finished, you'll notice I have red in the background for some of these. These will be time periods when we have inflation. And you'll notice we have some areas that are not red, and those would be deflation, which is when our inflation is reducing. I went ahead and I graphed it. You could graph it on your own. Just do the insert, and then I selected this line graph. You can do it as a different one if you like. I like the line graphs for inflation because it shows deflation really easily in time periods when we're going back and forth. So you get a really good idea of whether inflation is going up or down, and you can see when inflation is really dropping as well. And so these are periods of definite change for this country. And so this is you should get something like this in your assignment. And then it asks some questions. It asks, what do inflation and deflationary periods mean for producers, the economy, and foreign investors? You'll answer those separately because the response is somewhat different for each one. And so I'm going to let you do that on your own. And then these are just calculating the inflation rates. And something like what I've done is sufficient. You can pick your graph. And so then the second part of the assignment is on unemployment rate. And this is a little more complicated because we have to, before we can find unemployment, we have to find the labor force, because it gives us this information right here, but we have to do the labor force. And so to find the labor force, we're going to add those who are unemployed to those who are employed. So this column plus this column, and then I just copied and pasted it the whole way down so we can see our labor force for each month. So then to find our actual unemployment rate, we take the number of unemployed divided by the labor force, and once again, put it into a percentage. So you can see my formulas here. We can see the unemployment divided by the labor force and then times 100. So we can see our unemployment rate, which is quite high. And then after that, it asks for the participation rate. So I put a handy dandy chart over here. Participation rate is the labor force divided by the working age population. So the labor force is right here, and the working age population is right here. Once again, put that in a percentage. You can see my formulas. And what's really good about a line graph here, and I did the same thing, is you can really see, I'll move it over kind of in front. You can see how it goes up and then it goes down. So higher unemployment, lower unemployment. And you can sort of see it in in the graph or in the data as well, but it's nice to see it in a graph that's pretty clear that way. There are a couple of questions associated with this as well. And once again, on the written part, I want you to do that on your own. It asks for the periods of increased unemployment and employment. And then you're going to measure, remember last week we did the GDP. So you're going to pull up that GDP as well and see how those compare. And you're going to look to see if there's a correlation between GDP and unemployment. So I hope you enjoy doing that. Remember, you're not just submitting your data and your graph, but you're writing a paper, 750 to 1500 words. And you're going to, detail the questions that I kind of briefly mentioned, but didn't give you, a lot of guidance for. If you have questions and you do need guidance, let me know. I feel like in most situations, once you have kind of the data and you have an idea of what it's supposed to look like, you can form your own opinions. But let me know if you do need anything else. I hope you have a great week.